First of all, I want to talk about Ukraine and Russia. Mery Dejevsky is foreign affairs columnist at The Independent. Has spent plenty of time in Russia and right around the world, Washington as well. Mery, you're very welcome to the programme this morning. How are you doing?
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
First of all, I mean, we can certainly talk about the prescription of Wagner as a terrorist group, but I'm much more interested in North Korea talking to Russia. Tell me your impressions of this and your thoughts on this.
Well, it is an interesting thing, but I think it's interesting in a different way from maybe the way it's been presented. Sometime, it's said, in the next week, Kim Jong-un of North Korea is going to meet Vladimir Putin. It's not entirely clear where. Kim doesn't usually travel very much. It's suggested that they meet, as I think they met last time, in Vladivostok, so he wouldn't have a long way to go, but Putin would have quite a long way to go. And what they are going to talk about, at least as to me, it seems to be being spun by the Americans, is that Putin and the Russians are maybe running short of ammunition, and they're going to be talking to North Korea about supplying more ammunition that Russia can use in Ukraine. Now, this seems to me to be slightly far-fetched, as I'm not quite sure what the sort of quality and quantity of ammunition that North Korea might be able to supply to Russia. I think there are other reasons, both for Russia and for the US saying what they're saying. I think Russia is very interested in finding not exactly new allies, but new alignments. Putin has just met Erdogan of Turkey in Sochi, inside Russia, renewing, if you like, the relationship with Turkey, which has generally been a good relationship. And at the same time, Putin is looking to the east, and Kim Jong-un in North Korea is looking quite isolated. And an alignment there can be seen, and I think this is maybe why the US may be a bit worried, can be seen as directed against South Korea. I think that's why the US is worried, and why it's sort of spinning this.
It says North Korea would pay a price for supplying Russia with weapons to use.
Yes, and the US has been here before because it accused, or at least it held out the prospect as a scare story, that China was going to be supplying Russia with weapons to use in Ukraine. And so far as we know, that didn't actually happen. And I very much doubt whether weapons is actually going to be at the top of the Russian-North Korean agenda when the two meet.
Just on that big issue here in the UK today about the Wagner Group being declared a terrorist organisation by the UK, will it make a blind button of difference?
Well, it seems incredibly late in the day. You know, Wagner's been around.
Yeah, that's what I asked Grand Chaps, yeah.
It also seems that, you know, Wagner is now past its best. It's lost its top leadership. Most of its troops seem to be in the process of being absorbed into the Russian armed forces. And the way it's been presented here this morning is almost as though you've got sort of Wagner operatives and agents sort of wandering around the UK, and they're all going to be as a huge danger to Britain. This seems very, very far-fetched. A more sort of reasonable analysis says, well, the reason for this is that in the future, Ukraine and Ukrainians may be able to sue Wagner through the British courts for compensation for what Wagner has been doing in Ukraine. I mean, I think this is going to be extremely difficult because I'm not sure that by then Wagner is going to be particularly existing as a credible organisation, whether it's going to have any funds to do that.
Absolutely. Mery, thank you very much indeed. Mery Dejevsky there, foreign affairs columnist with The Independent.